We'll call the meeting of the Edina City Planning Commission for July 27th, 2011 to order. Jackie, would you please call the roll?
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Thank you. The next order of business is approval of the meeting agenda. Is there any corrections or additions or changes to be made to the agenda? Seeing none, we will continue with the agenda as it is. Approval of the consent agenda. Next item is approval of the minutes of the July 13th, 2011 Planning Commission meeting. Are there any comments or changes requested to the minutes?
Chair?
Commissioner Carpenter?
I do have a change with respect to, I think it's page 12 of the minutes. Under the heading discussion, there's a reference to suggestions that I made to the Commission regarding consideration of additional condition addressing parking concerns, and I don't think that's accurate. What I was actually intending, or what I think I actually said was a suggestion on my part that the City Council incorporate commitments that the developer or proponent had made during his presentation, so that they were essentially conditions to whatever approval might be given.
Okay. Any other suggestions, corrections, or changes? All right. Can we have a motion to accept the minutes as amended by Commissioner Carpenter?
So moved.
That was a rather dramatic motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The minutes are approved as amended. Don't mess with her. The next item on the agenda is community comment. During community comment, residents are invited to share new issues or concerns that have not been considered in the past 30 days or which are not slated for future consideration. Are there any community comments that any of the residents would like to address to the Planning Commission? Seeing none, we will move on. The next item on the agenda is public hearings. And the first item on the agenda under public hearings is number 2011.0005.09A, subdivision with variances by Kirby Herman, 5829 Brookview Avenue, Edina. Staff, would you please proceed?
Thank you. That was me making all that noise with the microphones. So it's working this time. Okay. Thank you, Chair, members of the Planning Commission. This, our first application, the property is located on the east side of the city, just north of Pamela Park. What they are requesting is a subdivision of their existing 100-foot lot into two 50-foot lots. This is a look at the existing home on the property now. You see it's a 100-foot wide lot with a Rambler-style home. A rendering of what the home looks like today. The applicant is proposing to tear down this home and build two new single-family homes on the two newly created lot. The request before the Commission is one for a subdivision, and there are 4 variances that go along with the subdivision that are being requested. It's lot width variances from 75 feet to 50 feet for both lots, and lot area variances from the 9,000 square foot requirement to just over 6,700 square feet for each lot. The median lot size in this area is 6,769 square feet, so the proposed lots are slightly less than the median. This entire area was platted with 50-foot lots. However, as these lots developed over time, when the homes were first built, there were some that combined 2 lots together and built 1 home. We've seen some where there was 3 lots and they took and created 2 lots out of those. And that's what took place here in this 5800 block of Brookview. We have a variety of lot sizes and lot widths. In 1951, the city amended its zoning ordinance and established the current 75-foot width requirement and 9,000 square foot minimum lot size requirement. So at that time, all of our 50-foot lots became existing non-conforming lots. This lot, however, this 100-foot lot that we're looking at today, is a conforming lot and was conforming at that time also. And again, as I mentioned, this block contains a mixture. So the primary issue before the Planning Commission this evening are the findings for the variance met for the request to divide this property. In this case, staff believes that the variance criteria is not met. When looking at the first standard, it is, will the proposal relieve practical difficulties that prevent a reasonable use from complying with the ordinance requirements? In this case, staff believes that reasonable use exists on the property today. There's a single-family home, and the lot meets all of our minimum lot size and lot width requirements. So reasonable use would not be denied the applicant if the city chooses to deny this request. Again, while there are 50-foot lots in this area, there are 2 lots to the north. In looking at the lot widths on the screen, this is the subject property. As you see, it's 100 feet wide. There is a property to the west across the street that's 100 feet wide. There are 2 lots to the north that have 75-foot widths, and there are 3 to the south that exceed the 75-foot requirements. You've got one 100-footer over here and then 2 80 feet wide. The same goes for lot areas. Those 2 lots to the north exceed the width or the area requirement. There's 1 to the west, also exceeds, and then 3 to the south. When looking at the second criteria, are there circumstances unique to this property and not common to every similarly zoned property and not self-created? As indicated here, the oversized lot is not unique to this area, in particular the 5800 block of Brookview. As pointed out, there are, again, 2 to the north, 1 to the west, and 3 to the south that exceed. This is a self-created difficulty based on the applicant's request to subdivide the property. What I believe we'll hear from the applicant tonight is that this request is similar to a subdivision that was approved back in 2009, just a couple of blocks away on Oak Lawn. And this is the block that we're looking at this evening. This is the subject property. Some of you may recall a subdivision in this block here for this lot in particular. Staff would see these as different circumstances. In this case, the one on Oak Lawn, every lot on that block was a 50-foot wide lot with the exception of the one that was requested for the subdivision. The existing home at that time was located on the north half of that lot. So over the last 50-plus years, this southern half of this lot appeared to be a vacant lot, and the city did approve that. The third criteria staff believes is met. Will the variance alter the essential character of the neighborhood? 50-foot wide lots are common with single-family homes, and this wouldn't be out of character. So in conclusion, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission deny, deny the variance and therefore deny the plat based on the findings that are included in your staff report. And those include the property exists as a conforming single-family residential lot with a single-family home. Therefore, reasonable use of the property exists today. If the city denies the variance request, the applicant would not be denied reasonable use of the property. The difficulty is self-created by the applicant's proposal to subdivide the property, and the proposed lots do not meet the median lot area for lots in this neighborhood. The existing lot is similar to several oversized lots to the north, west, and south. So with that, I can turn it over to the Planning Commission for questions.
Thank you, Kerry. Are there questions of staff? Commissioner Fisher.
Kerry, in terms of when you look at the, when you're analyzing this, when you're looking at the mean lot sizes, is that part of the variance requirement? I mean, is there a set rule about that, or is it really just about the 50 or the 75 feet versus?
Yeah, in this case, it's about the 75 feet in the 9,000 square foot area. When the median kicks in, it's for areas that exceed that 75 feet of width and 9,000 square feet. In other words, if all the lots in this neighborhood exceeded those two requirements, then the median kicks in. We typically run the median average for lots that are smaller just to get a flavor of, does this proposal meet the median in this case? And this is an instance where the medians are actually not met.
So all the information that you've given us on median sizes is just for our information. It's not tied to a set
Correct.
rule or anything? Okay.
Correct.
But it would be if it was larger than 9,000?
9,000 and the widths were larger than 75 feet. Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Kerry, I've got a couple of questions, and you probably covered this. Was this originally platted as a 100-foot lot, or was it just the fact that two 50-foot lots were built on?
It was originally platted with two 50-foot wide lots. This entire area was platted originally with 50-foot wide lots. When the lots were originally developed, many people purchased two lots and built a home over the two lots and combined those two, and that was the case here. We've seen instances, in fact, the two lots to the north, there were three lots that were turned into two. So you've got essentially three 50-foot wide lots that were redivided into two 75-foot wide lots. It was just the preference of the individuals that were building homes at that time, whether they wanted a little bit larger area and width for their lot.
Well, did some action take place then at some point to make the two 50-foot, other than the fact that one house was built, was there some city action that took the two 50s and created one 100-foot lot?
Not an official city action, as is the case today. If you wanted to combine two lots, it's a simple form that's filled out in our assessing department. And that form gets sent down to Hennepin County, and those lots are merged together to form one tax parcel, in a sense, creating one lot out of two. Okay.
So that was apparently done, but they didn't have to replat the two into one 100.
Correct.
Okay. And then the second question I have is, if this proposal was approved, what could be built on those two 50-foot lots?
A single-family home on each lot that would be required to meet all of our setback and building height standards. So two single-family homes.
Could a single-family home be built on the lot, on a 50-foot lot, without requiring additional variances?
It could.
Are there other questions of staff? Commissioner Plattiter?
Carrie, do you know roughly how many square feet or how big a house would be if it went to maximize the lot? How big could that house be? Roughly?
Maximum footprint would be 2,250 square feet. So if you figured a two-story house, given that configuration, plus you need a two-stall garage, you could build, roughly a 4,000 square foot home, plus basement underneath.
Other questions for staff? Very good, thank you. Would the proponent care to make a presentation? Please come to, if you're going to use the center, you'll need a microphone. Otherwise, come to the side, give us your name and address, please.
My name is Kirby Herman, and I live at 5829 Brookview Avenue. And yes, I would like to make a presentation, and I also have some handouts here for the commission. All right, first of all, thank you, Carrie, and thank you, Commission. I appreciate the opportunity to come before you and state my presentation here based on my application and in response to the staff report. First of all, I'm 50 years old. I own a company called Prairie Stone Construction and Development. I've owned that since 2005. I lived in Edina all my life, except for a couple of years I moved out east. And I've lived on Brookview Avenue on the 5800 block since 1996. And I also am involved in the community here. I've been a hockey coach for the past 7 years, and that's been a lot of fun to give back to the community. But I'd like to begin by going through this, if everybody has the handout, my response to the staff report. Okay, my history is I purchased these sites for investment a few years ago, which was in 2006. The real estate was platted in the 1940s as 2 lots, as well as all of the Fairfax addition. This site was designated to be a site for two homes. The home I live in is structurally obsolete. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. I own a truck. It's got a 2-stall garage. In order to get and park in the north stall, I have to back my truck in so I can get out of the driver's side door. It is rather obsolete. In addition, all my neighbors and I maintain an additional 30 feet of land area that creates the sense of a much larger lot. If you can see on this map, this application exhibit, behind me is the park, and there's an additional 30 feet, the boulevard basically that butts up to the park, the road going into the park, which was maintained by me for the past 5 years, but also the previous owner who was living there for 50 years. So that's usable land. Now we go to my plat, lots 16 and 17 in Fairfax. In similar fashion to 21 immediate neighboring homes, 81% of all sites are identical to my proposal in the 5800 block of Brookview. So we're talking about the ones in blue there. Those are all 50 feet. And the purple ones are 47 feet approximately. So we're referencing that. And then we got, Carrie touched on this too. My plat is substantially similar except for the walkout versus tuck-under topography of the April 2009 approved replat of Lot 6 and 7, Fairfax Block 14. See attached, that was the one that we just discussed here. That's the David Lukacek home. If you look at that, that's 100 feet by 134 feet, which is exactly the same size as my lot. And actually with the walkout pack, it's a very, very conducive lot to rebuilding. There's a 500 radius, 54 homes virtually identical to my plat, the majority of the community. My plat fronts on Brookview just like all my neighbors. I have my neighbors' support. That's one of the first things I do. If you look in here, there's an insert in here that has signatures from my neighbors. I started this process in 2009. All of them are aware of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And there's not a person that I have come across that is not in favor of and support a subdivision. I thought that was very important to involve my neighborhood and neighbors so that they understand what I'm doing, so that they are not adversely affected by this, which obviously with their signature and their support. Some are here tonight, and I might have Ann come up and talk to you after I'm finished regarding this. You know, the last thing I wanted was a lot of disgruntled neighbors. I love Edina. I grew up here. I'm part of the community. And it was very important to me that they understood what I was doing and that if there were any objections, that we addressed them before we got to this place and before we got to the application process. So that, take a look at that. My plat is 100% conforming as to lot width and depth per staff report. The proposal is absolutely consistent with surrounding land use and Edina guide plan. The proposal meets all the requirements of the City of Edina engineers. This plat is consistent with intended zoning for Fairfax. Now, when we talk about the reality of this application, a significant portion of East Edina consists of single-family homes on existing 50-foot lots. We need to acknowledge that many of these homes will be redeveloped in the same fashion as my request. This is a reasonable expectation. The only reason a variance is required is due to the city's ordinance for new lots, which is currently 75 feet, making a 50-foot lot non-conforming. So the very ordinance creates practical difficulties with compliance in East Edina for many existing 50-foot home residents. Will the proposal relieve practical difficulties that prevent a reasonable use from complying with the ordinance requirements? You know, reasonable is to allow a new conforming construction to occur, not a McMansion. I think we addressed that. What size of a house can we build on a 100-foot lot in this neighborhood, and would that be consistent with what's going on in the neighborhood? I know that the house that I used to live across the street at 5836, that was a 50-foot lot. I sold it to a builder. I did not pursue a builder. A builder came to me, bought the lot, tore it down, and built a beautiful home on there. We have two new neighbors, with two young kids. It's really been nice for the neighborhood. But that's a gorgeous house. I believe the square footage is right around 4,000. So if the city allows something like that, what would they allow within the requirements that they have to meet the city? What size house could we build on that? A 100-foot lot. And I don't believe that that would be consistent with what's going on in the neighborhood or in the Fairfax edition. All right, and so that addresses the McMansion topic. The type of redevelopment is what community leadership should encourage. 80% of the East Edina's narrow lots, most built in the 40s and 50s, are currently hosting obsolete housing stock. I apologize to my neighbors if they're here. As a community approaches 80 years old, we need leadership to realistically and strategically send a message that it is safe to invest in Edina. The ordinance requiring 75-foot lot width when 80% of the community is 50-foot lots creates a practical difficulty. And we brought up the staff report here about, you know, there's larger lots on my neighbor, or on my block. There's one to the west, one to the south, and two to the north. And the one to the west, I'm not sure if John is here, but John Peterson owns that lot. He's in support of it. I think he was up at his cabin and was going to try to make this meeting. But so his is basically two lots, just like mine. The one to the south, my neighbor is here, and if you look at our exhibit, that's where 59th Street used to go through to the park. So basically, when they shut that street down, that particular property gained 25 feet. So originally it was a 50-foot lot. But due to circumstances, which I would support 100%, that they shut that street down, they gained 25 feet. And then the two lots that are to the north of me, and I believe this is the case, that there's a storm sewer system that is going through those two lots, and that's the reason why they were developed that way, and they didn't want to be able, they didn't want to build a house on the storm sewer. I believe that's the case, so they just gave those two lots an additional 25 feet, and so that's the reason why those are 75 feet. And if that is the case, and you can't build on the storm sewer system, they won't be able to utilize the full 75 feet anyway. So that would be a little more consistent with a 50-foot lot than a 100-foot lot. And let's see, where are we? Okay, so the staff report further confirms that the application is 100% supportive of essential character of the neighborhood. Thus, we request, as such, it should be approved. And the rationale: the applicant may have a use, some use, or possibility of use. However, modern standards for residential dwellings are not being satisfied by the current 1941 obsolete, moldy, leaky, undesirable structure. And again, I'm talking about my house. The old structure with a breezeway and a garage addition on the second lot has outlived its useful life. The two new homes are consistent with realistic vision as to the continuing vitalization of Edina. One new home on the northern lot where the home is, and one on the south lot where the garage and breezeway addition are, should be approved. As a practical matter, when measured by any real estate professional, single-use redevelopment of this site is not practical as an expectation of Edina's new home consumers. We need to address, in a practical way, the new home consumers' investment desires that can be affordably achieved. No rational consumer wants a 10,000 square foot McMansion. Let's not discriminate. Let's do the right thing. Let's acknowledge the petition of support from all my neighbors for this plat. Let's build practical, sensible homes, not so big. We must also acknowledge that there are lots smaller than 50 feet in Edina. If these residents apply to build the same houses I plan to, they can, and shouldn't I be able to be permitted to do the same? And please consider my most direct neighbors. All have 50-foot lots. All could tear their homes down and build exactly what I'm seeking your permission to build today. The vast majority of my neighborhood is consistent in occupancy and use with my application. And that is all I have. If you have questions for me, I'll take those now. Otherwise, my neighbor would like to speak.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Herman. Are there questions of the proponent? Commissioner Scheer.
I'm just trying to clarify the statement. In addition, all of my neighbors and I maintain an additional 30 feet of land. Is this the land, if I look at your colored drawing, that is between the brown access road and the back of your lot as it's platted?
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
That's we call it the boulevard, but I maintain that. I mow it.
Okay.
Other questions of the proponent? Commissioner Staunton.
In your packet, you have this list of signatures of neighbors.
Yes.
If names aren't, did you ask everyone on the block, or did you just ask these people?
Those are the people that I physically talk to.
Okay. Did you attempt to talk to the,
I have attempted others, and I just didn't get their signature, but I have talked to all my neighbors about it.
Okay.
And I
So,
would be happy to get more signatures if that would
well,
help.
what I'm driving at is whether the absence of a signature means that they're opposed to it.
But like I said, to my knowledge, no,
Okay,
they are not.
thank you.
The city doesn't know that.
Other questions? I should note for the record that the information that has been received by the commission does include an email from one of the neighbors who does appear to be opposed to subdividing the lots, so. Yeah, it came in just before the last, this matter was continued from the last meeting, and this email came in just prior to the last meeting, so I just want that to be clear for the record. The other thing I do want to say is Mr. Herman called me last night, and we did have a conversation on the phone in which I said, you know, we can't really discuss the merits of the matter, but I did point out to him what the procedure would be today, and I assume so far the procedure's going the way I said it would go. So, but I did want to make that clear in case anybody has any questions or concerns about that. Are there other questions of the proponent? Thank you, Mr. Herman. We will hear now testimony from anyone else in the audience who would like to comment. If you would like to comment, please come to one of the podiums at the side and state your name and address for the record, and we will hear your comments. There is a time limit imposed on these comments, but we're a little bit flexible about it since we don't have a big agenda tonight. So.
I live at 5845 Brookview Avenue. In the drawing that Kirby has prepared for you, I would be the last house right on the corner of 59th and Brookview. It is an oversized lot adjacent to Pamela Park. I'm one of those people that gained 25 feet, which means I have a garage I otherwise would not have had 59th Street not been closed off. I want to address the commission this evening from several different perspectives. First of all, I've been an Edina resident for over 2 decades, and I moved to this community because of the schools. Brought my family, my son, and in addition to having my family participate in the Edina Public Schools, I was encouraging others to come here because of the quality of the community and the quality of education that students receive. It's been really sad to see Brookview Avenue over the years have very, very few young people. Homes have not been remodeled or knocked down and rebuilt as we're seeing in other parts of the community. And I was really excited when I saw on Oaklawn just about 1.5 years ago 2 homes go up on that 100-foot lot, and to see families with small children come in. In addition to seeing the joys of having children back in the community as you bring in new housing stock, I also look at it from an educator's standpoint. I'm a former principal of Valley View Middle School, and I know the benefits of having people come to our community and also the benefit of having 2 homes on that block for tax basis and for tax purposes. So I would really encourage you to strongly support Kirby Herman's proposal to subdivide his 100-foot lot into a 50-foot lot. Do you have any questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Other comments from the community? Now's your chance. Seeing no other speakers approaching the podium, I will take a motion to close the public hearing. Is there a second? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the public hearing is closed. We'll now bring the matter back up to the commission for comments and discussion. Does anyone have anything they would like to say about this proposal?
Well, I've been on the Planning Commission for several of these discussions, as was pointed out by Mr. Herman. And I think the thing with which we have to grapple this evening is, does an original platting trump current zoning? I find that it's not necessarily absolutely clear to me how I feel about that in every case. I am drawn to arguments about the neighborhood around each such request, but I am concerned that we do need to come up with a consistent approach for how we look at these situations, because we do have a number of areas of the city in which we, will find situations such as the one being discussed this evening. If 75 is truly to be our coded minimum, then I think we need to be proceeding cautiously with any exceptions to that. And I would be very interested in hearing everybody else's comments.
Commissioner Forrest.
I guess my concern along those lines is that when they were originally platted, the houses that were being built were significantly smaller than houses that are being built today. And our current building and zoning codes allow larger homes, but yet they're kind of backtracking to these smaller lots, and I'm not sure there's always a good match. We don't have any way to limit or monitor the massing of a home that goes on a smaller lot that's newly created.
Commissioner Carpenter.
I'm a little sympathetic to what the proponent is asking to do, and I also find myself sympathetic to the comments here on the commission. But and I don't mean to be dismissive, but in this case, it seems to me that we don't really get to the point of evaluating those types of issues, because I agree with the staff report in that this strikes me as a self-created practical difficulty. The property as a larger lot can accommodate a home by subdividing it into two lots and thereby creating the need for a variance. The owner is essentially creating the practical difficulty himself, and I think that at least my understanding of the variance statute that was recently adopted by the legislature is that essentially negates the ability to get a variance.
Commissioner Fisher.
Well, I think Commissioner Carpenter just very eloquently expressed sort of what I'm struggling with, is that when we're looking at variance requests, it really comes down to hardship, and we have legal definitions about what we can consider a hardship or not consider a hardship. In this case, it truly is self-inflicted, if you will, in that there's nothing, it's not like the lot is a different shape than the other ones or anything else. It's, our zoning changed, and now they need a variance to get to split the lot. I struggle because I think it's a good idea in general what's happening in terms of taking these lots and turning them into two homes that could have families in them and all that. I do have a concern. I think where the concern really comes from for a lot of residents in the community is this whole monster house thing and the overbuilding of lots. So the idea is, well, now if we create two, are we going to have two overbuilt houses? But you can take the opposite argument and say, well, with a 100-foot lot, we're going to have a really bigger overbuilt house. So in terms of if you just look at sort of the urban design or the character of the neighborhood, you have a better bet to keep with the character of the neighborhood with the two smaller lots than you do with the larger lot. So what I see, what we probably really need is a policy decision from the city council that says, we believe, and I think it really relates to sort of the affordable housing issue. I think if you have 50-foot lots, the tendency is you're going to build a house that would conform to a 50-foot lot, which is a tendency to be a more affordable house than maybe we're getting in larger lots. And so if you look at all the work we've done on affordable housing initiatives and all of that, this is actually a great vehicle for achieving affordable housing. But it doesn't solve the problem of technically can we grant a variance based on the hardship definition. And so I know it's not a quick solution, but I'm wondering if we shouldn't approach this as a policy decision that needs to be made, because this isn't, we've now seen a couple of these, and I would guess we're going to see some more, and it seems like we shouldn't be treating them differently, and we should have some policy, or the council should have some policy as to how we deal with them, so we don't need to be granting one-off variances.
You're talking more of an ordinance amendment then, or?
Ultimately, I think it would be an ordinance amendment or something that would say, okay, in this condition, you don't actually need a variance, or, maybe, I don't know if it's tied to sort of an affordability thing or a size. The size, I think, gets sort of dictated by the size of the lot. But so here I am somewhat in favor of going back to the 50-foot lots, but I'm not sure that technically that's something we should be doing, just based on statutes.
Yeah, in my opinion, at least in this particular instance, with dealing with this particular situation and dealing with, a state law that's just been recently enacted, it seems to be pretty clear on the limitation of self-created practical difficulties. I don't know how you can do anything else right now. And just to clarify, I know there's a lot of thought or reflection on what else has been going on in the neighborhoods and other lots that may have been more beneficially affected by this. But this was an adoption of a statute. I'm trying to think, is it 6 months, 3 months ago? I'm losing track now. That changed fundamentally, to some extent, what we can do in terms of granting variances. And in this particular case, one of the things that the legislature adopted as part of their test was this determination that what they call a practical difficulty, which was a term that didn't exist in the variance statute previously, is something that cannot be created by the landowner himself. So as a process of essentially subdividing the property, you essentially, in my opinion, create a situation where you are creating your own practical difficulty, and that's what I think makes it so difficult.
Can I say? On the other hand, and Carrie, maybe you can address this. If the city subdivides a lot into a lot of a certain configuration, why do you need a variance? Why do you need a variance to create a 50-foot lot if you subdivide a lot and create a 50-foot lot? I hadn't thought about this before, but if the city approves a lot dimension, haven't we taken care of any variance issue just by reason of the fact that we've created a lot of a certain dimension? And you don't even get to the practical difficulties question, because I guess my question is, why do we even need a variance if we approve a subdivision into a particular sized lot?
Both in our zoning ordinance and our subdivision ordinance, we have minimum lot width requirements, minimum lot area requirements. So if that plat that's proposed doesn't meet those standards, we need a variance for it. That's the case before you.
So a subdivision of a lot is not the same as an amendment to the zoning ordinance then? I think that's the answer I'm hearing you say.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Staunton.
Carrie, can you share some more with us about the Oak Lawn subdivision where a variance was granted? In your presentation, there was, the one distinction I heard you draw between that situation and this situation is that every other lot on that block was a 50-foot lot. Are there any other distinctions? It looks like that was done in 2009, so that would have been briefly before the Supreme Court decision. Are there any other distinctions besides the fact that all the rest of the lots on that block were 50 feet?
The other distinction would be that the home that was existing on that lot was located up on the north half It actually met setbacks for a 50-foot lot. So it existed with the appearance that there was a vacant lot right next to it, big open yard adjacent to the home, whereas this house is located across the two lots.
So they were just adding one home, the existing home stayed, and then one home was added?
It could have been done that way. As it ended up, the existing home was torn down also.
I remember it. The other comment, I think, and Carrie, maybe you can help us with this, although the practical difficulties standard is, in fact, new language, the kind of self-created really is the same language that existed prior to the change in the statute, isn't it?
That's correct.
Commissioner Fisher?
And that's where I was thinking about as well, is that there's really no difference between this request and the Oaklawn request in terms of a self-created hardship. Is there?
No, I would see those as similar.
Okay.
I guess with the exception of the existing home was located up on that north lot, it always gave the perception that there was a vacant lot there.
Commissioner Staunton?
It seems to me that the fact that all of the lots on that second block were the same, that goes to the essential character of the neighborhood, not necessarily to the unique circumstances or the reasonable use of the property. And I think that when we change to a 75-foot width, that we've done that with some intention, and I think it's important to stick to that. But I am a little distressed by the fact that less than 2 years ago, or around 2 years ago, we granted a variance to permit a similar subdivision just a block away, and I'm struggling with how to handle that.
Commissioner Rock?
Didn't Carrie mention earlier that if all of the lots on a block were different than the variance or the standard, it went to the median size? So wouldn't that change the Oaklawn approval to a 50-foot width because they were all non-conforming? But in this case, because now the lots on the block are non-conforming, it would remain at 75?
The median requirement only comes into play if all the lots within that neighborhood exceed 75 feet in width and exceed 9,000 square feet in size. So in this case, and in the case over at on Oaklawn, the 75-foot width is the standard and the 9,000 square feet. All the lots are less than those standards.
Commissioner Fisher?
Sorry, I'm very talkative tonight, but
It's all right. I got everybody's name tonight, so I hope.
yeah, you're rolling. And what I struggle with is, when we were doing the comprehensive plan, we got into the whole neighborhood character issue and really defined the character of neighborhoods. This neighborhood has a very specific character having to do with its small lot size, smaller homes, and it's a unique feature in our city. And in this case, if it seems like I'm arguing back and forth with myself, I totally am, okay? So I'm trying to deal with this. But in this case, this variance request would make this more in conformance with the character of the neighborhood. And that's an oddity in a sense with variance requests. Normally they're taking you the other way. And I remember now, when we dealt with the Oaklawn one, that was very much what was in my head, is that from the perspective of what's good for the neighborhood, that would actually seem like it was good for the neighborhood. And I feel the same way about this one. I'm just getting hung up on the legalities of it. And I don't know why I didn't get as hung up last time. And that's where I'm struggling a little bit. Well, I know there's the whole Supreme Court thing in between, or I don't know. But I'm not sure if that really should change the outcome. I don't know.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Staunton?
I actually think the legalities are the same now. I think that in substance, the the legislature's amendment of the statute really just reinstituted the Rowell standard that was applied to the language in the statute prior to the Supreme Court decision. So I'm struggling to, if under those circumstances, the last time we handled this, that we granted a variance to create 2 50-foot lots, I'm struggling with that. The other thing and Carrie, maybe you can help us with this. This 75-foot frontage, minimum lot frontage, where does that apply? Is it just in this neighborhood? Does it go beyond this neighborhood? Where's the boundaries of that?
That applies citywide, so every R1 property.
And picking up on Commissioner Fisher's discussion of the comprehensive plan, I remember we talked about, this notion of neighborhood characters, and actually the amended comprehensive plan does include some discussion of the character of various neighborhoods. But I also remember we were struggling with how to apply that. We've got neighborhoods that are so different in this city. We've got, Morningside or a neighborhood like this, and then you've got Rolling Green or Indian Hills, and a 75-foot minimum frontage in those neighborhoods makes a lot of sense. A 75-foot minimum frontage in Morningside or on this in this Pamela Park neighborhood maybe doesn't. So, if this was a 75-foot minimum that really just applied in this 2 or 3 block area, I'd be more concerned about bucking that than I am when it applies citywide to all kinds of different lots. And in this area, as the applicant has noted, within 500 feet, you've got, almost all of the homes are at that 50-foot. Aside from the woman who testified, I'm forgetting her name, Mrs. Sullivan, that lot was kind of created by the oddity of vacating a street, so that's why that's bigger. You got one across the street that, as I recall, has kind of a garage next door, and it's not like your house. It's not just one house spanning 2 lots. And that leaves you the 3 lots that were split into 2. And I think the applicant has at least given an explanation for why we might have an oddity in that situation because of the utilities. So the more I talk about it, the more I'm inclined to grant the variance.
Commissioner Scher?
Now that we're having all of the legal minds on the bench weigh in here, I guess I do want, I would like to come to some sort of a consensus, if we could, even perhaps among the legal minds that are represented here, about what our obligation is with regard to the new state statute here. It is pleasant to talk about neighborhoods, and it is pleasant to talk about each of our feelings, but I think there's a legal obligation to understand there, and I don't understand it. I am not one of the legal minds sitting here.
Well, if I might, I'm not sure I understand it either. The standard that we seem to be wrestling with is whether or not the practical difficulty is self-created. And, what does that mean? It could be said that the practical difficulty was created 40 or 50 years ago when somebody decided to combine 2 lots. Or you could say that the practical difficulty was created when this applicant decided he wanted to subdivide the lots. I'm not sure where you draw that line. The problem, I was concerned originally about the size of those lots. They are small lots. I wouldn't want to grant a variance or subdivide this into 2 lots and then have somebody come back and request 14 variances in order to build a house on those lots. That would not, I wouldn't be in favor of that. But I am kind of inclined, as some of the others have said, to say, yeah, this is a good idea. But the problem for the applicant is, suppose we say this variance is okay because the self-created thing happened 50 years ago, and then the city and the applicant are subject to a neighbor someplace who really doesn't like the idea of bringing suit on this legal point. So I guess that's the risk that everybody's facing in this thing. What in fact does self-created mean? I'm inclined to believe that self-created means it was created back when the lot was when the two lots were combined into one, as opposed to, because anytime anybody wants to put an addition onto their house, you could argue that that's a self-created difficulty, and that's essentially what the position is here. It's self-created in the sense that he wants to subdivide into two lots. So I don't know where that went, but that's my comment. Commissioner Platter.
I have two things. One is a comment. I live in a neighborhood that has 50-foot lots, and a lot of them are being torn down right now, and I think it can be a good thing if it's done tastefully and within limitations of what's in there versus building something else. And then another question I have is, if this was reversed, if you wanted to combine two 50-foot lots into a 100-foot lot, how easy is that, or how often is that done, and is there anything preventing that from happening?
That is relatively easy. If you've got two 50-foot lots, it's a form that you fill out in our assessing department requesting that your two lots be combined. That's sent down to Hennepin County, and they are officially combined. And there's, no variance, no.
So you could build a monster house at that point, right?
Correct.
So we go the reverse way. We'll freely allow that, but maybe not the other way.
Commissioner Forrest.
A couple of things. First of all, I don't quite buy the affordable housing argument, because there are houses being built on 50-foot lots in this town on a regular basis that exceed $1 million. And so I don't see that as very convincing for me personally. Secondly, I think typically when you're talking about self-created, you're talking about by the applicant, not by, because anything that has to do with a shape of a lot or anything else that's been created before somebody purchased the property with knowledge of it, that would be a different circumstance. Most of the arguments here that we're hearing all satisfy just that third element, that about the essential character of the neighborhood. We're still not finding things to relieve the lack of a reasonable use of that property, or the circumstances that are unique to the property, other than the fact that it's platted differently, or rather currently combined two platted lots. I'm concerned because I don't recall the word self-created in our previous ordinance. There may have been language in the state law at the time, I don't know. And the reason I say that is because I had reviewed another municipality's ordinance, and they had those words in there, and that jumped out at me as another standard that we didn't have here, so there was a difference. But I could be incorrect in that. But I think if there is clarity in the language of the state statute as it is now, then that needs to be complied with, taken very seriously. That we can dance around it a lot, but we still need to go back and see what are the criteria actually being met, and then look at that on its face too.
Commissioner Fisher.
What this reminds me of is all the times we dealt with the minimum driveway standard. And what happened is, I'm assuming, it was before my time, as Edina was in that, I'm guessing probably in the 70s, the standard in suburbia was, these wider lots and wide driveways and the whole deal. So we set our zoning up, which then has to be community-wide. So as you know, with the driveway standard, we ended up having all kinds of problems in Country Club because a 12-foot wide driveway or whatever just doesn't fit. It can't work, and it changes the character of that neighborhood. So we did grant variances routinely and finally changed the ordinance to allow that to work. And I look at this situation, it's very similar. The problem is I don't know that we can find a one language fix for this because it would have, would have these other impacts. But as I read the language here, it says there are circumstances that are unique to the property, not common to every similarly zoned property. Well, we're talking about a zoning ordinance that was set for the entire community. And while it's not this property, it's really, I don't know how many blocks these size lots are existing in. But to me, it's a unique circumstance to all of those lots, if indeed we want to maintain the character of that neighborhood. And I'm not pretending to be a legal mind, I'm just being a design mind here. And from a practical perspective, that's what we should care about, is the character of our neighborhoods. And now, that doesn't help me get around the legalities of it, and that's where I'm relying on the smarter people, the legal minds. But that's my thought from a pure, if there's an argument to be made, maybe it's not actually self-created, but it's literally, there is a unique circumstance that was created. I think it was created by the city.
Although we have law degrees, we are but mere mortals as well, so. You have something to say? Anybody else? Commissioner Platter, thank you.
Commissioner Fisher's point a little bit. Someone could come in just theoretically and buy all these lots, put them all together, and have 5 homes here. That would change the character of the neighborhood, right? It may be going from, you'd have a completely different character in that point, and that could happen.
It could. The thing that is pushing me to a conclusion that is in favor of this application is just the importance that we give to neighborhood character, the concern that so many people have expressed in the past about the oversized houses and that type of thing and how they are not in character with the neighborhood. You could build a really big house on this lot that would be totally out of character with everything. There are neighborhoods you can drive down some of the streets in town and you can see where the house was built without the need for a variance to the maximum size allowable, and it's just totally out of scale with everything. And I'm inclined to be in favor of this application with some hesitancy because of the language, but I'm a lawyer and I can parse language however I want to and come up with and figure it out for myself. But I think I'm going to be voting, I think, in favor of this thing, which is.
My question is, how do you satisfy that we're supposed to have to meet all 3 criteria?
Right.
And the first one is, will the proposal relieve practical difficulties that prevent a reasonable use from complying with the ordinance requirements?
Okay. The way I would answer that, again, playing with the language, is that the reasonable use is something that's in character with the neighborhood, and something that's not in character with the neighborhood is an unreasonable use, and therefore, I realize it's a stretch, but that's where I am. Commissioner Staunton.
What tips it over for me is we granted a variance to the same application 2 years ago. So we somehow figured out how to call it a reasonable use, how to show that it wasn't self-created. I think the observations that you've made, Mr. Chair, are valid, and they're probably the same thing that supported our grant of the variance 2 years ago. So I would make a motion that we grant a variance permitting the subdivision of this lot into 2 50-foot frontage lots.
Is that motion subject to the, well, it's not subject to this findings, is it? No, it was not recommended. Is there a second to that motion? Okay, the motion's been made and seconded to approve subdivision and variance request 2011.005.09A. Is there further discussion? Yeah, hearing none, do we want a roll call vote on this? Okay.
You're stretching it this far, yeah.
What are your findings on that motion?
And these are going to have to come from the legal minds, please.
Am I getting paid by the hour on this? All right.
I think you need to find them also, you need to support all three of those criteria, not just the character of the neighborhood one, too. We would need to be able to be clear, to clearly say how we found it, the proposal met all.
It's not my first rodeo.
Get ready.
So with respect to the proposal relieving practical difficulties to prevent a reasonable use from complying with the ordinance requirements, the findings would be that the vast majority of the parcels in this neighborhood and the character of the neighborhood are reflected by 50-foot frontage lots, and the practical difficulty of maintaining the character of the neighborhood is prevented by a 100-foot frontage lot. Secondly, the circumstances unique to the property, not common to every similarly zoned property that are not self-created, is that the lot was created long before the time that this particular applicant brought this forward, and again, is not consistent with the remainder of the neighborhood. And then finally, the variance doesn't alter the essential character of the neighborhood, because the vast majority of the lots in the area are 50-foot frontage lots, and the exceptions in the immediate neighborhood include a lot that is 75 feet only because of the vacation of the former 59th Street and because of a subdivision of 3 lots into 2 to accommodate a utility issue.
Mr. Platter, will your second include those findings?
Yes.
Okay, so a motion has been made and seconded to approve the application with the findings as expressed. Is there further discussion? All right, Jackie, can we have a roll call vote on this, please?
Nay. No.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Yes.
Yes. The motion carries 4-3. So, Mr. Herman, your motion has been approved. Good luck.
Chair Grable,
Yes.
can we bring this up for maybe a policy discussion with the council? Or do something that kind of, to see if we can't?
Yeah, I think with respect to the actions taken tonight, the council will see that there is a policy issue. Would you like to have some additional discussion of this later on in this meeting? Or how,
Or we could, maybe if we're going to be working on the ordinance updates or something.
okay. Carrie, if you'd make a note on that we do want to follow this up with consideration either as part of the ordinance amendment process or as a direct communication to the city council. Thank you.
Possibly even a policy discussion when we get together with the city council, hopefully this fall, and we talk about the rooftop dining. This could be an added topic.
Okay.
No, as a reminder, this actually doesn't go to the council unless somebody appeals it, correct?
Is that,
This will go to the council because there's a plat involved.
Plat.
So
Oh.
it's a recommendation with the variances and the plat.
So they'll have this same discussion?
They will.
Okay.
let them come up with it. The next topic, the next item for consideration is variance request B-11-04, Kelsey Smith, 4801 44th Street West, front yard setback variance. Carrie?
Grable, members of the commission, this property is located on 44th Street in the just east of Highway 100. The applicant is requesting a 3.5-foot setback variance for a small closet addition to match an existing front yard setback variance that was granted a couple of years ago, and also an 8.5-foot variance for a deck addition to match well, it's not an existing porch, but a variance that was granted again back in 2009. On the screen here, the 44th Street and the existing home, back in 2009, variances were granted for an entry addition and an expansion of bedrooms. That's highlighted in orange on the screen. This is the front entry addition. Variances were granted for that, and this is an expansion of the existing bedroom. And again, variances were granted. The request before you this evening is for the area that's highlighted in blue. Maybe I'll go to the next slide. It's upside down from the previous slide, but this is a blow-up of that previous. 44th Street is at the bottom of the screen. So the front entryway is located here. Again, a variance was granted for that. It has not been constructed yet. There are building permits out on it. And also for an expansion of the bedroom located right here. Again, building permits have been pulled, but the addition has not been constructed. What the applicant is requesting is to expand the closet, this area that's highlighted in green, for the bedroom, and also provide a deck outside that's highlighted in blue. This is a look at what the home will look like once the construction is completed. This is that front entry addition that received the variance. Maybe this next slide shows it a little better. This is the front entry that received the variance. This is the expansion of the bedroom that again received the variance. So what's before you this evening is the closet area that's located right here, and for this deck portion. So those are the variances that are before you this evening. In looking at the variance criteria, staff believes that they are met in this case. First, the reasonable use criteria. Staff believes that this is reasonable. There are minor additions to the variances that have been already approved. This site is unique. You may recall that here's 44th Street here. These lots were platted out of the vacated right-of-way for the old streetcar that ran through here. So the depths of these lots are only 90 feet, going to restrict the buildable area on these lots. We didn't believe that it would alter the essential character of the neighborhood. Again, the homes are pulled up to the front, and these are minor additions to what was approved. Staff hasn't received any negative comments in terms of the variance that's before you. We have received complaints about the look of the home as it sits today. If any of you visited the site, there's a blue tarp that's been out there for quite some time. And I believe there was a letter passed out this evening with a concerned resident that would like to see this project, the construction project, completed. The applicant may be able to address some concerns in regard to when his plans are for actually building this. But with that, staff is recommending approval of the variances before you this evening, subject to the findings and conditions in the staff report. And with that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Questions of staff? Thank you, Kerry. I have a question. When were the original variances granted?
It was in 2009. I don't know the exact date off the top of my head.
Is there not a what's the requirement in terms of timing once a variance is granted? Is it the pulling of a building permit, or is it beginning of the project, or
it is the pulling of the building permit, which was done, and as I recall, it was done almost as the variance was about to expire. But he did pull a building permit in time.
And then is there a limitation on the length or the duration of a building permit?
Yeah, that's where it gets a little difficult. They need to be making progress toward completing the project. There has to be some progress made at least every 6 months, and if they've done something, it gives them another 6 months. It becomes an enforcement problem with some projects, this being one. They have started and done some things, but certainly not completed.
Okay. Other questions of staff? Commissioner Staunton?
Just so I can be clear, how long has the construction been underway?
Oh, I believe it's,
Maybe
they
the
pulled the
applicant,
permit back in 2010.
2000,
So at least a year.
okay, thank you.
Other questions of staff? Thank you. Would the proponent care to make a presentation? Do you need your name and address, and then use the microphone, please.
My name is Kelsey Smith. My address is 4801 West 44th Street. Since the age of 5, over 6 decades ago, I've been an Edina resident and citizen. The building permit was pulled in a timely fashion with respect to ordinance, with respect to the variance. Pulling a building permit does not mean you have to start building immediately. Construction did not begin on this project until February of this year. So that, and the problem with respect to construction, one, I am doing this as a general contractor myself, which a little bit of knowledge, or a lot of knowledge, but sometimes can slow things down. Basically, my slowdown was in the contractor that I picked to be doing the work for the foundation work and so on like that. I was assured that there was no problem in doing a ICF, and to clarify that, that is a insulated, foam insulated construction where you have poured concrete walls. I was told there was no problem in doing this in, February era. Some of the problems, though, because of the fact that this is a 1961 home that obviously back in that era there wasn't as much concern about insulation and everything else. And doubling on this is it's a walkout home. So our basement in the past has been pretty much very, well, you take the wintertime months, you might as well not even try and use it or be there because it was just stone cold. You walk on the floors and it was stone cold. So going into this construction idea, my whole idea was to, one, improve the home for myself, improve the home for the neighborhood. And if you can think of that home just as it is right now, without that construction of the foundation work that's out in the front right now, the home was just a very bland vanilla to the neighborhood. It didn't give the neighborhood anything. I think of what we put together here is going to certainly be an improvement for the neighborhood. And I do understand a particular neighbor's concern about the length of time that's taken. She would like to have seen it go further and faster in that. But my contractor, we had a lot of snow in February, as if you all remember, and then it melted. And what we had done is we had created a moat around the whole entire house so we could put 4 inches of insulation on my foundation, frost footing foundation, on the backside where the walkout level of the house is, to, again, make the home more livable in that lower level area. But so the whole home was kind of like a castle, had a moat going around it. And unfortunately, when it snowed and then there was a thaw in there for about 10 days, the moat turned from snow to water, and there was no way that the contractor could do the waterproofing down there, could put in the drain tile system that was required to be put in there, and meet a lot of these things. Okay, so I can understand his issues and so on like that. Well, we got into, and things didn't really get better until mid-April. That's when things started to loosen up, and we had thaw to the frost and everything else. And with that whole exposure, we had a lot of ground that was just frozen solid there, and that. So we had to wait till that time, and that. And then my contractor was non-responsive to my time schedule. Get in here. I was told this, well, I'll be there, or I'll have my son calling you on Thursday, and so on like that. I'm up in Fargo doing a job up here, and that, and got to a situation that ultimately I wanted to part company with him. He was saying, well, you can't do that. I got a contract here. All you attorneys know that I've got a contract here. I could go to court and fight him, or I could reason with him and put some other things out there on that. So ultimately, we did come to an agreement in the first part of June that we would part company. And this has cost me money, sitting here doing this. I'm living in another place. We are not living in the house, so I've got an expense there. It's not something I wanted to go have all this taking place and that. But so we were able to come to an agreement, and from there I was able to, next steps were, had to get floors in this ICF concrete area, or build out foundations, because you have to have floors in there before you can then do your backfill and compacting of all the soil around there and so on like that. So we're here at this point, and then I wanted to, and we also then, I would have been here for variances a long time ago if two things. One, the state didn't have their problem with Minnetonka's thing, and you're very well right that this all came back again. It's the same wording there was before. It's just now the state is saying, we accept it, and this is it. Just a little offset to this. About 5 years ago, I believe it was, or 6 years ago, many counties in the state came up with the idea that we will take any of our contiguous, non-conforming lots, and without authority, if they're owned by the same owner, and there are two non-conforming lots, we are going to merge them together. And counties all over did this. They did this with a lot that I have up in Cass County, and that. Well, the state overturned that, I believe it was about a year and a half ago. So we're talking about, this is just going back to those 2 50-foot lots. Well, this was an era when they took, the counties took two of those contiguous, meaning side by side, both non-conforming, put them together to create maybe a conforming, but even then, if they weren't still large enough, they created and merged two lots that were plotted and divided, or plotted, and tried to make them into one. They did it, but the state has overturned that, and it's back to their two separate lots. So that's an aside. Anyhow, with respect to where I am at, my variance request here now is that it's not any additional stepping out toward the street or anything. It's all back at the same distance that I had for the bedroom bump out and for the front entry bump out. One of the reasons for and I think I stated this in my letter, was the idea that with this narrower area and that north, unfortunately the sun doesn't sit and see the north at all, it would be a real difficult area to really grow any vegetation, even grass. I mean, I've lived there in that house for 28 years, and we could never even keep grass on that slope or that hill, because it just, the only thing that really grows well is weeds. So that was one of the reasons. I also feel it's going to be, make the front there look nicer. Goes back to the old friendly idea of let's get ourselves out back in front of our houses, wave to our neighbors, say hi, and so on like that. As you can, certainly, yes, I want the project to go forward. One of the things I haven't been able to do now because of this idea about the variance in that, can't order my roof truss until we know what dimension we have on that front gable and how that's going to tie in to the rest of the roof truss and that. So that's, at this point. But I envision that the project is going to be moving along much more rapidly now, and I look at something by the end of the year being in the house and occupying it. And that. I have seen some homes in Edina construction eras. There was one down on, just off of where Bridge Street comes in, and I guess on Country Club Road there, that I think had a record, something like about 4 years of construction. And that, but I don't want that. My wife doesn't want it. I won't have a wife if that happens. And that. So I guess that's kind of where I'm at. The areas that I'm asking for the variance for is for the front, and I will be perfectly right out in front with you because I feel that is the only way to be. I have one addition that I'm looking at doing on the back side of my house, and it doesn't require any variance or anything else, but it is in the where the master bedroom is and the three-quarter bath for the master bedroom. That bath is a narrow 4.5 feet, and that a contractor suggested to me, he said, why don't you come out a bit and get your home into what would be a more desirable situation of having a master bedroom suite. And so what we're looking at is coming out a distance of maybe 6 feet. First of all, to outline what my setback is, the flush setback right now of my house is 33.5 feet from the back lot line. Your backyard setback requirement is 25 feet. And so I've got like about 8.5 feet there that I'm still within the building footprint that's allowable without variance request or anything else.
As long as that's not a variance request before us, that's, if you're within the thing, that's up to you. So
I only raise this point because 2 years ago, Carrie said, built as per plans. And I can understand that with respect to the portion where we're talking about the variance. I just wanted to clarify this and make sure that this is what I do in the back there. If I come out a little ways, it's not going to be said, well, that's not within the plans. So I guess my front is as I want it, as I would request that you maybe would approve for me.
Okay.
On that.
Questions of the proponent? Commissioner Staunton.
So when did you say you can be done by?
I'm looking at December.
Would you be comfortable with us making a condition of granting the variance?
I think...
Or maybe I'll put it a different way. What date would you be comfortable with us making a condition of the variance?
Well, I think, something like a year from start of construction or something like that.
February 2012?
Yeah, but,
Okay.
It's just that we're going to get into one of those situations if something goes beyond, because now when is construction completed?
Right.
Is
So
my driveway poured and so on?
Sure, I get it, but your next door neighbor put in a letter. They're clearly concerned. I suspect you knew that before we knew that.
No, I did not. And could I have the letter read to me so that I would be knowledgeable?
The letter was submitted. I'm sure it's a public document from
Because
John and Marcia Jones.
I wasn't aware of it or anything else.
So they're concerned, and I suspect you want to make sure that you keep happiness in the neighborhood. And
Right.
so I think I don't know how people are going to vote on this, but if we grant it, I think it's in your interest to try and get done as quickly as possible. You've already indicated that you'd love nothing more than to get done as quickly as possible.
If you want to know how much it probably cost me, first of all, I had other contracts that I did lose some money on, and also those that I maybe didn't lose money on, they aren't real interested in, with Kelsey. So, this is hurt hard. Not only my, if we want to call it $1,000 a month living expenses, because I'm living in a town or in a condominium that we normally rent out. I put, the renter wanted out and something like that. It worked as a good time. But I'm losing that money for every time every month that I'm in the house, plus the money with contracts and trying to reorganize and regroup on the contracts. So, but let me please read this.
Sure.
Kerry, while he's reading that, I assume that the plans will have to be approved by the building department to go forward with.
That's correct.
Okay. So that takes care of the second request of the neighbors. Okay.
Are we taking motions or
Oh, we have
questions?
questions of the proponent. Commissioner Forrest?
Okay, may I address the things in the letter, please? Just because you've all had this, and so because she has outlined and said I strongly recommend the following. So these, I think, would be points that you are weighing in your plan possibly here. No variance be granted until the exterior of the home is already, as planned, is completed. I just mentioned the idea, can't do the trusses until something like that. A detailed sketch and plan of the deck be submitted by a qualified professional. I think the drawing here, shows in essence.
Well, the plan's got to be approved and the plan's got to be followed.
Right.
So that was taken care of.
And I'm totally aware of the fact that I did have to submit a whole new plan to the building department, something like that. The timeline is a situation that I'm not totally comfortable with, because I don't think that you can, you could if you want, hold a gun to my head. But there are too many things that can occur. I want this to move along and that. So, if you said, September 30th, got to have it done, and I know you wouldn't be unreasonable in that respect, but I just don't think that I'm a grown child, and I don't need that over me, I don't think. So with that, I think I'm through. Does anyone have any further questions?
Commissioner Forrest has a question.
I just wanted to clarify, what precipitated this change in the plan then was originally the problems with the ice dams and the roof leaking, which then meant changing the pitch of the roof, which then slightly altered the design of the front of the house?
Well, by doing that, one, we get a steeper pitch. It's going to even be blocking out more of the south sun during the winter, but that isn't going to be the thing. It's just that you can't get anything to grow if you've got 7 feet out here and 12 feet out here. That which is back in here isn't going to grow well. You won't even be able to grow shrubs or anything else like that. And I thought if we can get the shrubbery out in front of the deck, there it will have an opportunity to be growing. And I think make for a much more attractive layout. So.
Other questions of the proponent? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Does anyone else wish to speak?
Patty? This is my wife, Patty. Right. So.
I'm sure she is in favor of you moving forward.
I think so.
Thank you.
She'd probably be in favor of the timeline, but
we will bring the matter up to the commission for comment, discussion. Oh, we'll take a motion to close. Yeah, is there anyone else that wishes to speak? Hearing none, we'll take a motion to close the public hearing. Thank you.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor, aye? Aye. Okay, the public hearing is closed. Now, we'll bring it up. Other comments from the members of the commission? I have a comment. I'm not sure as I review the staff report and the requirements for the variance that there's any particular reason why we should not grant the variance. That said, we don't willy-nilly grant variances to have construction projects just hang out there, and frankly, your testimony didn't give me a lot of confidence that this thing would be completed in a timely fashion. So I would suggest that you do take the concerns of the neighbors and at least this commissioner seriously and move this project along. Other comments? Is there a motion?
I move to approve based on the findings and subject to the conditions in the staff report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there additional discussion on the motion?
I am not gonna move, ask to add the condition, but life would just be a lot better for everybody if this is done in a really timely manner. I would echo the comments that the chair made, and if it comes back again, I'll move for the condition. So,
other comments? You ready for the question? All in favor of the motion to approve this variance request with the conditions stated, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Your variance request has been approved. Please go forth and build. Good. Reports and recommendations. Any commissioner have any report on any activities? Commissioner Staunton?
Mr. Chair, just a quick update on our work on the Grandview Small Area Plan. The Grandview Small Area Plan Steering Committee has been meeting on a monthly basis through the summer. We are on the brink of retaining some consulting experts to assist us with crafting a work plan. And at the August 18th meeting of the steering committee, anticipate bringing a proposed work plan and a proposed team of consulting experts to the steering committee for approval and ask them to recommend to the city council engagement of that team of experts. So we're very pleased that we're moving forward, and we're anticipating in the fall that we will be having some considerable public input and other opportunities for people from around the community to engage in our work as we try to craft the future for the Grandview neighborhood. So we'd encourage people to stay tuned and look for opportunities in September and October to engage in that process.
Thank you, Commissioner Staunton. Other comments or concerns of the commission? You did receive the council connection. Comments from staff?
I don't, other than I did take a look at the council connection. It did not include the discussion from the York Gardens project, so I'll just give you a quick update. Council did approve the relocation of that. They approved the site plan. They added the condition that the noise equipment, remember we had the long discussion about the noise abatement, they required that to be ordered immediately and installed immediately. So they've done that, and they've been in for their permits, so.
Good, thank you. The only comment I would have is just, let's make a note that we do need to have some policy discussion at some point on the issue of the 50-foot lots and those neighborhoods as suggested by Commissioner Fisher. Thank you. Other comments? Am I looking this way? Is that where we look for the adjournment?
Do it. I'm trying to remember how to do it. Move to adjourn.
Is there a second? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
I thought you were tonight at 20 minutes.